Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Becca and today we are tackling a scary subject, and that is we're going to talk today about the plants that scare me. Plants that perhaps I have had in the past and it went very bad, or plants that I have in fact never touched and never planned to because I am a scaredy cat. This video is also brought to us by Squarespace, so a little bit more about them later. Now, I'm gonna be talking about these plants as like a general, so not necessarily specific plants within the genus, because some of these are just genus specific. If there is a specific plant within the genus that freaks me out, I will mention it. The first plant that really freaks me out is orchids, or are orchids. Orchids really feel so far out of my wheelhouse, but a lot of people have told me that I'd probably do well with them. They are pretty easy care, but for some reason, I am just really hesitant and scared of them. There's so many different kinds of orchids. I mean, I have admittedly had one orchid. I think I had like a mini orchid and it lived for a while. But not too long, and it kind of, once it stopped blooming, I got really bored with it. So I think also the thing that scares me about orchids is how quickly I'm gonna get bored of them. So basically, like any houseplant that's known for its blooms, I have really bad luck with getting them to rebloom. Like, it's the same situation with African violets. I think they're the coolest plants, but I cannot get them to rebloom. I've had them on multiple occasions, and so it's not necessarily that they scare me, so they don't make this list, but they just annoy me. And I feel like my orchids would be really happy when I buy them blooming, and then I would never be able to get them to bloom again, right? Like, I don't know. The first time I ever like saw true success with an orchid was when I was babysitting my neighbor's orchid over Christmas break. She went to Florida for a couple months and asked me to watch some of her plants. Among these plants was a fern and an orchid, and two plants that like really intimidate me. Ferns are also on this list, spoiler alert. But yeah, I actually was able to get the plant to grow like 2 new leaves in my care, and it wasn't in a bloom stage at that point, but yeah, it grew 2 new leaves over like winter, a couple of months over the winter, which was pretty wild to me. So it did give me like slightly more confidence to get them, but I just feel like with orchids, they just intimidate me. I don't know, they scare me. Okay, so I mentioned ferns. Ferns really freak me out because they need like a lot of moisture, and obviously like if your area is humid and you are willing to keep up with the watering, I'm sure that they're pretty easy to take care of. But if you've been following my channel for any amount of time, you know that I am a chronic underwaterer. I just always forget about my houseplants. Well, not always. I guess it's been a little bit worse in the last season because I've been pregnant and like that whole transition was really wild for me. But in general, I stick to plants that don't need as much attention. And if I do have plants that need like lots of moisture or more TLC, I only have like 1 or 2 of them, as I said at the beginning of the video. So I have like a Gapertia back here. It looks pretty worse for wear. This was previously a Calathea, and Calathea are known for being just nightmarish plants to take care of. So I have that plant, but it's one. I have one. And then I have a Fittonia, which we know Fittonia need a lot of TLC in that they like to wilt and like can be pretty dramatic. I find them very like predictable and fun, but lots of people are intimidated by them, or they're just annoyed by them. So I feel like if I had like 1 fern, it would be fine, but I have had a maidenhair fern before and it went really badly, and I was super sad about it. I put it in a self-watering pot, and even that wasn't enough because the self-watering pot would dry out in like a day. So I was still having to water the plant like every single day. So to me, it just felt like, what's the point of the self-watering pot if I'm always having to water it? Anyway, point is, it was really thirsty, but that really is like the fern that I would love to have the most. But like also Boston ferns I've heard are really easy, but still they shed. I don't know. It all just seems very intimidating to me. But the good news is that ferns are typically super cheap. And if you have one and it dies, I feel like I wouldn't be all that upset about it because you can just go get another one for like $5. I feel like I could tell someone how to take care of it, but like in practice, it's scary. So I don't know, maybe now that I have the greenhouse, I'll be more willing to try stuff like that because I feel like it'll be easy to just take the hose and just water them down a lot. but the concept of having to water something like every day or even every couple of days is just too much for me. And yeah, sounds really scary and sounds like heartbreak waiting to happen. Thank you so much to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. Squarespace is the all-in-one platform for building your brand and growing your business online. You can stand out with a beautiful website, engage your audience, and sell anything: your products, content you create, and even your time. So I'm actually in the process of building my second website with Squarespace. I built the Potted Together website with Squarespace, and now I'm doing my own website. And I have to say, it has been so easy to integrate everything that I wanted. Designing the pages is really intuitive, and it's really just like a drag and drop edit situation. As you guys know, I do sell signed copies of my book, Houseplants for Beginners, which is conveniently right here on my website. And I also have some other merch pieces. And honestly, Squarespace makes it really easy to set up a store. You can have a mailing list so that you can keep in contact with your supporters. And then also, of course, there's blogging, but there's so many awesome features on Squarespace that I'm super excited for you to try out. So if you'd like to design a website with Squarespace, you can head to squarespace.com to start your free trial. And then whenever you're ready to launch your website, you can use the code Becca Plants to get 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. This one might come as a surprise due to recent events in my plant buying habits, but Anthurium really scare me a lot. So Anthurium is a wonderful genus. I love them so much, but it's one of those genuses that's like with great, with great something comes great responsibility. What's that phrase? I'm like totally blanking on the phrase. It's like in every sports movie anyway. With great talent comes great responsibility. I don't really know. Anyway, point is, I have like a good number of them. My Anthurium collection is actually pretty big recently, especially because I went shopping at Equigenera in California and brought back like 6 plants or 5 plants. So the collection grew quite a bit. And I feel like I've only recently gotten a handle on what they like. And through this channel, through you guys and Instagram and just people in general being like, why are you doing that? Why don't you do this instead? I have somehow figured out how to take care of them. And, but that doesn't mean I'm not afraid, like every single day. Like I'm very careful with these plants. They are the plants that I like covet the most. I actually was thinking that I would move like a good number of them out to my big greenhouse, but I actually don't know if I'm even willing to do that because I'm so scared that I would like burn them, or that it would, you know, my fans would go out and they'd get like, I don't know, too hot. And in the winter time, if my heater went out, then I lose all of them. Like I'm just really scared of this plant like dying or losing them. But I will say I don't have like a super big track record of killing them. Usually I can at least keep them alive. Like, do they look incredible most of the time? No. In my opinion, I'm kind of a perfectionist. I think maybe other people might look at them and think that they look fine. But the ones that I've had for a long time, like you can tell that I had some learning and growing pains through taking care of them, which is not a bad thing, obviously. Like plants are gonna make new leaves, new possibilities for growth and opportunity. You know how plants are. But those leaves, those older leaves that do show the fact that I was learning, they just, they look bad, and they just remind me of the old days of having no idea what I was doing. So what I have found actually to help with Anthurium in general is to plant them in ceramic pots. They do well in De La tanks, thankfully. And then I recently started putting sphagnum moss around the base of the plant. And I mean, ever since I did that, like a plant that I've had for a really long time, my Anthurium crystallinum, it was not putting out growth very often at all. And the growth that it did put out, it wasn't really sizing up like at all. It just put out a leaf that is like significantly bigger than the old leaves. And it was after I repotted it in ceramic and put the sphagnum moss on the base. That's literally the only thing I changed. It's always been living in the cabinet, but I changed those 2 things. And I swear the new leaf is like double the size of the old leaves, which is what you would hope for, is that your plant's leaves continuously get bigger. But they just weren't getting bigger, and I was always so lost as to why. And I think that was the ticket. So I was letting them dry out too much, obviously, and the ceramic pot with the combination of the spag, I think just prolongs the moisture around that plant. And yeah, so if you are having issues with them, maybe try that out. Ever since I did that, all of my plants are putting out leaves like crazy. Well, all my Anthurium are putting out leaves like crazy. So maybe a hot tip if you guys are struggling or scared of Anthurium, but you have them, but you're like afraid of them. Because that's me. Okay, this next one, it feels like such an obscure genus, but Amedrium. Now, the reason that I am so freaked out by Amedrium is they feel very similar to care needs of the Alocasia family, and Alocasia and I do not get along. If you ever see me trying to buy another Alocasia, I want you to scold me. Unless it's the Alocasia lauterbachkiana, I definitely want to try that one again if I can find it. But any other Alocasia, unless I have it like in my landscape outside, I don't want you to let me buy it, okay? I want you to be in the comments mad at me, keeping me accountable, because every time I have bought an Alocasia, it has died a very terrible and sad death. So I guess that can go on this list too, Alocasia. But it's not necessarily that I'm afraid of them. I'm just like done with them. I'm like annoyed. I can't do it anymore. They do really great outside here. Like I have some big like elephant ear bulbs that I'm so excited to plant because they just do incredible like in the landscape where I live in Columbia, Missouri, zone 6B. But in the house, never been successful. And so Amedrium remind me of Alocasia, and I think that's the reason why I'm like absolutely not. But also I feel like there's a lot of funky, weird looking Amedrium, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but I'm kind of like, ooh, that's kind of weird. It's like out of this world, veiny, leafy plants, you know what I mean? I think they look cool. I'm gonna say that, but it's a little bit strange. And I just have never had one before, never even really thought about one before. I've seen people have them. I don't know, it just never really stuck out to me as something that I should get, again, because of this, like, for some reason, I have a correlation to Alocasia with that plant. Maybe because it starts with an A. I honestly have no idea what it is, but if you have an Amedrium that you really like and has been easy for you, I think I would be interested, because I've seen, I think like an Amedrium fingers or something like that. And it literally looks like a hand. It has just it's just like a cool leaf shape. And like, I really am a sucker for unique leaf shapes. So maybe that one would be fun, but I don't know. So if you have an Amedrium that you really like and you find to be easy, let me know. But in my opinion, in my uninformed opinion, they look like a spider mite magnet, and the pest that has latched on to me in this life is spider mites. And so I know very well how to combat them and take care of them, but it is just really annoying and I really don't like to do it. So yeah, let me know if I'm correct in that assertion or not. If you have an Amedrium you like, and are they spider mite magnets? I feel like they are, but you tell me. Okay, and last, this one might seem kind of weird, but succulents. Succulents freak me out. And I think that not as much as the rest of these. I will say it's definitely less of a weirded out situation, but this might come as a surprise, being that I'm from the desert and everyone is like, ooh, succulents are like the easiest plants, and if you kill a succulent, what are you doing? Okay, so I really highly disagree with that statement. Like, I have had so many people message me on socials and be like, I killed a succulent, or I killed a cactus. Like, how can I be expected to take care of anything else? And I think that there are so many misconceptions on taking care of like desert or succulent plants, because everybody thinks like automatically, oh, well, it's a cactus. It can live in like dark corners, or it can go like years without water and all of these things. And I will say that like cactus, not succulents, cactus tend to, in my experience, they tend to respond to stimuli like a lot slower. So yeah, like maybe your cactus will live on your fluorescent office desk for like a year and be totally fine, and then one day it's like dead. That happens a lot to people I have seen. But with succulents, they're just so much more touchy. They lose leaves, and every time I go into like a conservatory with like a desert house or something like that, I look at the succulents and I'm like, okay, so this is realistic. This is like what succulents really look like. Because I feel like there's so many succulent care videos where it's like, oh, if your succulents are getting leggy or this or that, like here's why and here's how you fix it. And there's like this fixation on succulents being this like really compact, small like mound, which honestly a lot of them should be growing that way, but there's so many that have like arms that will just like curl and like kind of do whatever they want, and like it'll be like this long stem with like a little rosette at the end. And like I had so many succulents that looked like that, and in my like experience of walking through the plant world in the succulent lore. I don't know. I felt like my plants were wrong. Like they weren't, I don't know. So then I saw that recently and I was like, oh, that's what they're, like that's what they look like in a conservatory. So I think that mine were probably fine. So this is something that I'm probably going to try again this year. See if I can find anything. They're typically super cheap. So if I can find a few that I really like, that I can like, you know, plant maybe like 1 or 2. I really don't want that many, but I do like the variation of like the desert vibe, but it's not spiky. So they are intimidating because everyone says that you're never gonna kill them, and then you do, and you're like, what's wrong with me? And I just have to remind myself and you that there's nothing wrong with you if you killed a succulent or a cactus. There's so much misinformation and honestly just like, not propaganda, but just like weird messaging surrounding these plants. And they are actually a lot harder than people lead on. So don't feel bad if you have killed them before. And that is my list, getting real with you about the plants that freak me out. I think it's super important that people like me, and I'm not calling myself an expert, but like experts say, you know, the types of plants that they struggle with, or like the things that they're worried about in their collections and things like that. I think it's really helpful for everybody to see that I'm here on a soapbox on YouTube and I still get freaked out by certain plants, and I still have lots of struggles with certain plants, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's all a learning experience, and I'm always here to level with you and just keep it real on how hard taking care of plants can actually be sometimes, and how scary it is and how emotional it can be. That's kind of like the goal of my channel and what I want to tell you, the messaging that I want to provide, because it's not all sunshine and rainbows, although a lot of the time it is, and I really love that about this hobby, but it can be really intimidating and sad when you kill a plant and you're like, what the heck? Or if there's a plant that you're afraid of and you finally get it and then you kill it and you're like, okay, well, that just confirmed why I don't get that plant, you know? Anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked this concept, or really the vibe, I would love for you to subscribe to my channel and check out my vlog channel. I always have that link down in the description box below for some more casual life content. And thank you so much to Squarespace for sponsoring this video, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.